So, welcome to the Preeminence podcast. Today, obviously, we have the distinguished pleasure of hosting Ole. He's actually a trailblazer in the field of venture capital. From our perspective, a visionary leader also in the health tech space and obviously prolonging life for human beings and the human species. Ole obviously co-founded Apollo Ventures in 2017, leveraging over, if I'm not mistaken, a decade of investment and operational expertise to navigate companies towards obviously value inflection points. Prior to his role,
Absolutely.
prior to his role in Apollo Ventures, Ole actually, this is quite interesting. He actually established himself as a serial entrepreneur in the HR space by co-founding a company named CareerTeam, and is
Hmm.
actually I'd say a renowned headhunting agency that specializes in hiring top tier executives and building robust teams. My apologies about that. This is and building robust teams basically for tech and life science sectors. He had about 200 plus employees across 4 countries, not one, 4 countries. Furthermore, he has an academic background that shines through stuff like he basically has basically gone through 2 universities. One down in Germany, University of Cologne, if I'm not mistaken, and another
Hmm.
basically the University of California, Berkeley, where he
Hmm.
dived deep into behavioral economics, basically setting new standards as one of the youngest, if I'm not mistaken, the youngest, fastest finishing postgraduate in his faculty. And obviously, Ole has a whole lot in terms of background from not only that, he's after he finished down in the University of Berkeley, he transitioned seamlessly into venture capital and kind of joined TruVenturo as a partner in 2011, where he really played a pivotal role in nurturing hypergrowth companies, subsequently bringing his rich experiences to the forefront as a co-founder and a general partner at Apollo Health Ventures. And thanks to God today, obviously, we have Ole here join us today to share his valuable insights into leadership, hiring, entrepreneurship, and obviously, just some information basically in terms of the biotech space. So we kind of draw from his diverse background and multifaceted expertise. So without a long and uninterrupted introduction, welcome Ole. Welcome to the Preeminence podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me.
Most definitely. Yeah. With that being said, Ole, I mean, typically I like to start off with just to get an individual's background, try to understand how they got into what they're doing right now. But as I was listening to one of your podcasts yesterday, I heard you speak about why biotech and longevity is basically a great sector for investors to think about. And you were basically telling the individual you're speaking to, you were explaining to them how, when it comes to the tech space for venture capital, is a winner takes all. But in the biotech space, sometimes, worst case scenario, you can sell IPs of a company. And you were explaining how basically in the biotech space right now, there's so much money being plunged inside. I just kind of wanted you to, I guess, kind of elaborate on that a bit for any investor kind of listening, just so they can get an understanding of why biotech is quote unquote, a good space for them to think about, and what are some of the benefits of investing into such a industry.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
So when you look at forecasts of the GDP contribution of different industries, you will find that biotech at the moment, tech has a larger GDP contribution than biotech. But when you look at forecasts, you will see that the most forecasts show that biotech will be bigger than tech within the next 3 to 5 years. And I think this is driven by different trends. So first of all, I think how the biotech industry works today is very different on how the biotech industry worked 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, only big pharma really could do drug development because you really needed to buy facilities, you had to buy the lab equipment, you had to hire researchers for doing drug development. Had to build a production line for the compound. You had to breed animal models to test these drugs on, and so on and so forth. So this has dramatically changed because nowadays we have a mature CRO industry. CROs are contracted research organizations. And that means if I think I have a compound today that is, for example, good against Parkinson's, I could produce the compound with an Indian CRO. I could send it to China. who have the animal models and the knowledge there to test it on animal models for Parkinson's. And I could do the analyses at another CRO in the US. So I could start within 2 weeks without any setup costs, or almost without any setup costs, and would just pay the CROs, right? So this has kind of, I mean, of course you still need money, but you don't have like all these costs up front. So this was kind of a democratization of biotech and drug development. And then you have also other trends, like, for example, machine learning. I would say that machine learning worked for quite some time best in the biotech industry for all kind of things. So, for example, my favorite example is lab automation. Again, 20 years ago, when you wanted to test drugs, you really had like researchers in the lab, and they were dropping compound solution on single cell lines. And then they would look by the human eye if this cell lines would colorize or glow. And I mean, of course, this is like a very manual process. Also, to read these results really depends on the time of the day, if the researcher had a coffee before or not, and so on and so forth. If you, of course, I mean, like humans do judgments, and sometimes these judgments are biased. Of course, I know that from behavioral economics, but I mean, every researcher who's working in a lab, of course, will tell you it really depends on how good your concentration is at the moment. And so this was like a very, very manual process. It took very long, very labor intensive. So today, this is done by robot arms that can drop multiple cell lines on multiple compound solutions on multiple cell lines. And of course, the results are not read by the human eye, but by a camera and AI or machine learning algorithm. So, and of course, also this has speed up drug development or drug screening in that case by a lot. So you can do it 1,000 times faster than 20 years ago to a millionth of the cost. And you have a lot of other effects. I mean, you have like a lot of discoveries in the biotech industry. For example, what most people don't know, gene editing is a quite new technology. I think the paper the technology is based on was published in 2011. And a few years later, already every university lab could do gene editing in one or the other form. And now the first drugs are in the clinic, but I mean, gene editing will change the entire industry. And with biotech, I mean, there are a lot of diseases where we don't have good drugs for, where we don't have a very good standard of care. And you are really solving big problems here, right? It's not like finding the next meta search engine or building the next e-commerce platform. You are sometimes saving the life of people, but at least making their life much, much better, right? So there's always a market for that, a huge demand for that. And I think it's also from an ethical point of view. So I like I like much more to bring a new drug to the market that can really help people than bring an add-on as a tech company to the market.
Most definitely. Awesome. Thank you so much for that beautiful information right there. Obviously, I took a whole lot of notes personally. Just kind of going back, and because you were talking about your background in behavioral science, I kind of want to feedback on that a little bit, because I know you did go to the University of California, Berkeley, to kind of get that degree in behavioral economics. So how would you say that kind of influenced the strategic approach you have as a co-founder and general partner at Apollo Ventures? Because I know behavioral economics obviously is not something light, obviously, and I know that can change a bit of how you make judgments in comparison to the regular person or the regular investor.
To be honest, yeah. So, I mean, when we go back on why I did a PhD, I was studying macroeconomics originally. And when you look at macroeconomics, after my study, I found out not so many macroeconomists are needed in an economy. I mean, of course, the government needs some, every big bank need a macroeconomist, but also the predictions of macroeconomists are mostly wrong or very imprecise. The problem is that you have like very big models. You have usually 20 variables or even more variables, and then you hold 19 of them constant. You change one variable, and then you wonder why the results do not reflect the reality. And I didn't see, I mean, it's not true. Actually, you learn a specific pattern of thinking, I would say, which helps you a lot later on. But I was not really learning stuff that I could apply for a job. And that's why I decided to do a PhD in a field that I can apply much better. And I think behavioral economics is really applicable. And for example, when you think about the first company that I founded, which was CareerTeam, the headhunting agency, it helped me tremendously. First of all, of course, in negotiations. You
Wow.
learn a lot about negotiations.
Mhm.
I think Influence from Robert Cialdini is, for example, one of the best
Great
books
book.
that
Yeah.
was ever written on this topic.
Wow.
There you can see how you can apply these kind of psychology. But for example, when you look at my first company, so what I really learned in my studies is that people have different motivations and different skill sets.
Yeah.
And when you look at usual or normal headhunting agencies, you will see that they have a 360-degree approach. That means that recruiters, they do the recruiting, but they also have to acquire their own customers. So they are like consultants and sales guys um, at the same point, at the same time. But the problem is when you look at good salespeople and good consultants, you will see that they have very different profiles from their motivation and from their character. So, for example, good consultants, they really want to consult. They want to satisfy their clients. They're very communicative. They want to make sure that they really find, for example, in headhunting, the right candidate for the right client. But if you're a sales guy, you are more driven by sales, yeah,
Yeah.
and by money,
Euphoria. Yeah.
and you just want to get deals done. And when the deal is done, you don't care for it anymore. Somebody else should do it. You are going for the next customer and for the next sale. And this doesn't fit. And the first thing that I did with my own headhunting agency is that I separated sales from consulting.
Hmm.
And so that means that our employees were much happier, but we could also attract a lot of talent that would normally not work in a headhunting agency. For example, really, really good consultants who really want to find a perfect fit between candidate and client. And they're never applying for a headhunting agency because they didn't want to do the sales part
Hmm.
and they were coming to us. And of course, on the other side, we could also hire very good salespeople who were not interested in doing the search later on. So, and I think this was like a big differentiation factor. Also, our clients were more happy because, I mean, our consultants, they were not incentivized on placing people. They were incentivized on customer satisfaction. And I think it was one driver why we became so successful. I mean, we became the leading headhunting agency in the digital markets within 7 years in Europe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, 4 countries. I mean, 200 employees. You know, that's obviously a huge accomplishment right there. Handling just 8 people within my company is a headache. I'm imagining, 200.
Yeah, I was not doing it alone, right? I had very, very good managing directors in the company, which are still leading the company. Very successful, by the way. The company is double as big as when I left it. So maybe growing even faster. Maybe I was the roadblock there. I don't know. Um, but
I doubt it.
but no, it was. I mean, it was a lot of fun to build that up.
Okay. So I would say like as a board member, and I guess previously just to kind of feedback on what you just said, previously on career team, how was like the involvement? Do you think that involvement kind of impacted your understanding of leadership and like the organizational dynamics, and how to like you apply those learnings also to like Apollo Ventures? Do you like are you the one that kind of is the head of headhunting there also, or what is it like?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it helped me tremendously because the things I think everyone who's building his first business or her first business is making a lot of mistakes
Yeah.
um, in regards of hiring, in regards of cash management,
Yeah.
in regard of the setup of the organization.
Yeah.
So I learned all of that, and I was always involved in company building. So while I was building up CareerTeam, I was also helping to build up other companies. And now at Apollo, again, we do like 50% of what we are doing is normal syndicates, like every other VC, like a
Yeah.
classic VC. But 50% is again company building. And for example, I'm responsible for the hiring of all the teams. So I do the hiring for Apollo, but also for all of the portfolio companies. I have also two recruiters working for me because I can't do it all alone. And they are very good. So
Yeah.
I have to, of course, I interview every candidate, but they are doing all the work in the front. But so, I mean, what I really learned while doing headhunting is how important it is to have very good people in companies. And I mean, at the end, when you want to have a good company, you need good people, right? And you need capital. So, and then of course you need also very good processes and so on and so forth. But first and foremost, you need good people and you need money. And this is the same in biotech. I mean, in biotech, of course, you have a lot of risk regarding the technology, and the technology also has to work. But if you have an outstanding team, even when the technology does not work, you can switch, you can pivot, you can try something new. With a bad team, you can't do that.
Most definitely makes sense. So I guess kind of drawing, from your academic focus on economics, psychology, and I'm glad that you even mentioned Robert Cialdini's book because I actually have about, if I'm not mistaken, two of his books. One was Yes, and the other was no, I have three of his books actually. Yes, Persuasion, and some other one. I don't know. It was three of his books, and just understanding the kind of in-depth knowledge he has in terms of the human psyche and everything like that. I'm just amazed at how you kind of use your background, your PhD, and all that multidisciplinary background. Like, does this kind of shape your interaction with entrepreneurs, and does it kind of like shape the way you evaluate potential investments? Because I know, a PhD like yours, for example, obviously is not a joke. So I know it kind of. I'm wondering if it affects or changes the way you look at investments in comparison to other people.
You mean because of my PhD
Yeah, no,
or
no,
because of the behavior economics?
no, because of your background, you have background in economics, obviously psychology. So I'm thinking like, how does this multidisciplinary background of yours shape your interaction with entrepreneurs and influence evaluation of potential investments?
So I mean, of course, I can't really talk about others
Yeah,
of their perspective,
most definitely.
but I can say for myself
Yeah,
that, of course, when we invest into companies, I look at the team and I look at the drivers that people have. So what's drive them to build this company?
okay.
And for example, I think there are better and there are worse drivers.
Most definitely.
So for me, it's very important that, for example, the founders really have a passion for the thing that they are doing, and they're not only doing it for the money. I think money is also a motivational factor, but I mean, in the beginning, when you build a company,
No.
it's usually very from the money side, it's usually very disappointing. So they really have to love the topic and want to make that happen. And of course, I also look at other soft factors. So I look if they're, for example, coachable. I look if they are open to learn new things. These are the things we are really looking at. Also, I think in biotech, for example, it's very important that you don't make a professor who invented the technology the MD of a biotech company,
Why is that?
because I mean professors they are very good at what they are doing, finding new science, but they're very bad in developing that science into a product. So in biotech, that would be drug development. So drug development is a really different thing to doing research. And also, of course, professors are usually not very good at leading businesses because they never did it. Science is working much slower and much different to building a business. And another problem with professors is, I mean, they are usually very smart,
Yeah.
but they also don't get feedback in their role as a professor, right? So they don't have feedback. That means very often they are very, how to say, um, they're very convinced that they can do stuff they actually can't.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I mean, what would you say are some like negative things or turn downs if someone potentially came to you guys for an investment opportunity, for example? I mean, what are some key things that I guess would kind of make that investment not valuable for you guys?
Would that make that investment valuable or not valuable?
Not viable. Just so obviously, as Charlie Munger says, if you want to get to a solution, you invert it. So obviously, for any listener who probably wants to, I guess, bring something to you guys on your table, I guess they might want to know what you guys don't want, so that way they can at least do the opposite of it, which is bring you what you want.
Okay, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, we are a longevity fund. We have been the first longevity fund worldwide,
Yeah.
and we are looking at technologies or drugs that can prolong a healthy lifespan. So we are usually financing companies working on drugs that have an effect on one of the root mechanisms of aging or one of the hallmarks of aging. So this is the criteria number one. We are pretty agnostic regarding the first indication. Usually we have a rare or orphan disease as the first indication because you get a fast track with the FDA. You'll be quicker on the market. And then as a second, third, and fourth program, we have bigger indications, often age-related, but they don't have to be age-related. We just want to have these compounds on the market that can prolong a healthy lifespan. So this is criteria number one. And then I have to say, in biotech, it's much, much more complicated than in, for example, the tech industry, because there are so many parts to it that can be a deal breaker. And I mean, I can name a lot here. I mean, I think what is similar, team can be a deal breaker, terms can be a deal breaker, right? But then, of course, also market size can be a deal breaker. But in biotech, a lot more comes into play. For example, even if you have a great market, um, you also have to look, can we really develop this drug and how easy it is to develop this drug? So, for example, you have a huge problem with some diseases that you can't recruit the patients for it. So, because I mean, you at one point you will have to run clinical trials, and you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Oh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Most definitely. So I mean, I spoke with Megan Crawford. She's in venture capital, the space industries, aerospace, and when it comes to them, she has something she calls a double double strategy, which is basically if a business owner comes and they want to have their venture invest into them, basically they double the amount of funding that the company's asking for, and they also double the time that the company expects to be, become profitable, and see if it's still going to make sense. And if it does after that, I mean, obviously there's still more that goes on in deep in details, but those are really the two main things that I guess they kind of do in order to know if an investment is something they actually want to invest into. I mean, for you guys, are there like specific? Gotcha. I'll tell her that. I'll let her know. Yeah, she calls it the in and out strategy, double double. I don't know what that is, but yeah, things are fast food, something like that. But yeah, for you guys, basically, I mean, what would you say are are there like one to three main things that if you had to, put down and say like these are the main non-negotiables that a company has to hit for it to be Apollo investable? Yeah, yeah, shit, true. I was gonna ask you that. That's true. Yeah, yeah, Okay. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I'm telling you. Yeah. That's great sometimes. Wow. Mm. Does that make you even want to like? Yeah. Hmm. I mean, how did you? Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, how did you get to How were you able to, I guess, kind of keep that tunnel focus in terms of seeing all your colleagues be investment bankers, they're making a couple of grands per year and all that kind of stuff, and you're here starving. You're trying to figure out how to pay rent. How do you persevere through all of that? Do you just keep that positive bias, or what is it? Yeah, people, someone motivating you to keep going, just the dream that you keep in your mind. See it. See it. Okay. Yes. Has it has to happen. Yeah, that's how it feels. Gotcha. So basically, yeah, because some people, they do go through something for a long period of time. They're just like, hey, let me just put the towel in, and they're almost close to succeeding. Because obviously, there's been a numerous amounts of people that probably went through the same process of entrepreneurship, which is basically like struggling for a couple of years, and then their breaking point is so near, so close, and they're just like, hey, I just got to give it up and just go ahead and get a job, which is so sad. But I guess it happens on a consistent basis. But in terms of yeah. Hmm. Yeah, but yeah, yeah. Well, so what do you think stops them from stopping? Is it the fear of what people are going to think about them? They themselves, yeah. I ask that because sometimes a lot of times as human beings, obviously, the same thing that someone fears, potentially there's gonna be a million other people out there also who have the same kind of fears or same kind of motivation sometimes. But cool. In terms of the longevity we're speaking about, these remedies are they like provided to a specific demographic, or they just these are going to be accessible to like poor class, rich class, medium? It doesn't anyone can access these medications once they're out there in markets. Yeah. 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 Hmm. Hmm. And eventually, these. Okay, go ahead. Okay. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. In terms of these drugs, for example, do you, from your perspective, obviously, uh, do you feel as though these drugs will become something that's almost taken by individuals every single day, just like the same way we take vitamin C sometimes and vitamin D, just to kind of like on a daily basis to keep ourselves healthy? We think these longevity pills will also be something that will be inhibited by individuals and just be like in their daily routine every single day. Most definitely. Mm. Like smoking. Oh wow. Okay, wow. That's great. So obviously there is a big boom that's coming basically for this space. Awesome. Yeah. No, I am 100% convinced. I mean, obviously, human life is the most precious thing there is in the world, obviously. So there's nothing more important than that. But awesome. Ole, thank you obviously for your time here today. Our time has obviously reached, and I thank you for the insights, the information you gave to us in terms of the hiring, understanding the people, their needs and wants, your background. Obviously, I wish you had more time, but obviously, you're a busy individual. With that being said, Ole, where can I direct my guests to? Where can they find you? Where can they contact you in regards to speaking to you about obviously uh, you and your company? LinkedIn, gotcha, and that would basically be your name, basically. Okay, awesome, awesome. Okay, cool. So I'll basically go ahead and I'll put the link. Actually, if anyone listens to this, I'll put Ole's link basically inside of the description of this podcast. You go ahead and follow him. Obviously, the guy's very knowledgeable, very preeminent, and someone who's open to obviously dialogue with anyone who's interested in obviously in the health space. With that being said, it's a Preeminence podcast, and yeah, peace out.